Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Maples Pavilion as it's senior night for Stanford women's gymnastics, hosting Arizona State for their final home meet of the regular season alongside former Michigan gymnast Evan Hyder and Troy Clarity. I'm Kevin Dana, and guys, this should be a fun one on a Monday night. They have Friday night heights in the SEC, some Monday night heights here at Maples between a couple teams looking to build towards Pac-12s.
It's an exciting night, Kevin, and like you said, these teams are building. So each of these teams, their emphasis, I really think it's to put together a complete meet. See those lineups build from their first kind of half of the lineup and then move into some of those high 9-8s, 9-9 scores, possibly even the 10, never know, into the back half of the lineup. So for Stanford, honoring their seniors, obviously, storied careers from Eliza Yu, Kaylee Cole, and Ashley Tai. Going to see two of them out here competing tonight, I believe, scheduled. So we'll see what they have for their last show here in Maples Pavilion.
And the Cardinals, with a little bit of rest coming into this one, they had that tough back-to-back weekend where they had to go to Oklahoma City, technically a neutral site, but let's be real. Norman, Oklahoma, right down the street from Oklahoma City. That is not a neutral site. And then 2 days later, having to come down to Tucson and square off against the Wildcats. That was last weekend. Stanford a bit rested. Meanwhile, Arizona State coming off its best team performance in 14 years. Tying Washington, they appear to be trending upward at the right time, while Stanford looking for big things as the calendar turns to March.
Yeah, this is where the fun really begins in the gymnastics season at the collegiate level at Utah for the Cardinal on Friday. That will be quite the test as well. And then Pac-12s starting on a couple of weeks after that, March 21st. Well, we will start with Stanford on vault and Arizona State on the beam, and we will start with one of those seniors for the Cardinal, Kaylee Cole. And Evan, as we look at the vault, what are some of the points of emphasis and keys for a good Cardinal performance?
For sure, on vault it's going to be the block. So the moment the hands leave the vaulting table and waiting to initiate the twist. We'll see what Kaylee puts on display here, and we'll hit the other points of emphasis. Arizona State's going to be on bars, so we'll split back and forth between those two to start. Kaylee's got a Yurchenko full. And I mentioned the block off the table. That's the rise she gets that allows her the time to complete a full twist. See right there. Very nice and securely to her feet. Again, the name of the game is a solid number in the books as that leadoff performer. And that's what Kaylee Cole just did. Hips were close just a tiny bit, so her layout position was a little bit compromised.
And for Arizona State, here's a senior, Jessica Ginn, out of Chandler, Arizona.
And I think they're throwing a wrench in our
Morgan Wilson.
Yeah,
Morgan
we've got Morgan Wilson. Starts off with the Jaeger shoot to handstand there. You can see she hit that vertical position pretty nicely. Final handstand position, gets it on top of the bar nicely. Solid into the full pirouette double tuck. Digs her toes into the mat on that landing. A little bit of forward momentum going, but she was able to control it. Solid start for Wilson and the Sun Devils. Get that giant full pirouette. You can see it ends the rotation right on top of the bar. She's able to zero in.
Now here's a really exciting gymnast for the Cardinal, the junior Kyla Bryant.
Kyla Bryant has huge power. The only thing I've seen her do is twist too quickly off the table. Nice weight tonight, and that allows her to see it for the entirety of that vault. A good vault should rise up, the rotation stops, and then the gymnast has plenty of time to zero in, knows exactly where to put her feet. Had a tiny bit of rotation still left, so the momentum was taking her back, but that's what we call finesse in NCAA gymnastics. The gym Gymternet knows it all too well. And Kyla Bryant here, the junior, showing it off as she just kind of puts it into the definitely planned salute to the judges.
So we have one score in Kaylee Cole getting a 9.775 and Kyla Bryant a 9.9.
9.9, the judges liking what Bryant put down there.
And that will bring us to Arizona State's Hannah Scharf. on the uneven bars. Let's talk about some keys for uneven bars and what needs to be done to get a high score.
Uneven bars, the name of the game really is handstand positions, and that's what the judges are going to see at a lot of intervals within this routine. The handstand position, and we don't have the protractor here handy, but you can see she was a tiny bit short of vertical. She's allowed 10 degrees before deductions significantly start. That half pirouette was right on top. She did a great pack salto transition down to the low bar. Now she's back up on the high bar, winding up for the dismount. Full twisting double back, tiny foot shift there, and you could see a tiny bit in the air here. Her ankles and feet come apart just a tiny bit as she's rotating through, but the thing I like about that is she kept her knees really close to her chest, allowing for that rotation to happen.
We move back to Stanford, third on the vault, Chloe Widner.
Here we go, watch for that block and the rise. Keeps her head in, and that position was very pretty. A little bit of extra momentum as we've seen with all of the Stanford vaulters so far. And again, getting that safely to your feet. She's pushing off here, keeps her head in nicely as she wraps the full twist. Solid number in the third spot. So remember, we talked about the crucial first three members of the lineup, setting the table, and then they can really try and go big for those 9-9 plus numbers at the end.
We have one score in on bars for Arizona State. Morgan Wilson getting a 9-8.
And that's really where these teams want to be. As we move into the end of the rotations, where everybody's trying to really zero in historically on that 49 mark across the board. So we talk about a solid meet, and that's going to look like 49s across the board. Each of these teams has had moments of greatness. As was mentioned off the top, again, Troy called out that 196.875, huge number for the Sun Devils, so they've got to use that momentum, and they're starting off strong on bars so far. Handstand great at the blind change right into the Straddle-Jaeger. Look at her arms extended as she caught. That allowed her to maintain body position to the low bar transition. Again, here up on the high bar, really aggressive swing. Step backward on that double layout, and when you see a little bit of extra rotation on bars dismounts, it's the point at which she lets go here. So you can see she's winding up, and the bar is pinging, so that means she didn't get a clean release of the bar. Gave her a little extra momentum. She saw that leg separation and a step back on the dismount, but clean when she was on the apparatus.
That was Morgan Hart for Arizona State. This is Morgan Huang for Stanford.
Huang here, in addition to this vault lineup, pushes back, really clean entry and post flight. The legs down from the knees, ankles, and feet were really clean. That extra momentum had her taking a shuffle backwards here. You can see the leg form. Her head comes out just a little bit, and that means her body is rotating a little bit out of sorts as she's flipping and twisting at the same time. She's able to zero in and get it securely to her feet.
So just to catch you up on the scores, Widner a 9-8. For Hannah Sharp, it was a 9.875. She was the second one on the uneven bars for Arizona State. Now we are looking at Juliet Boyer of the Sun Devils. She's a freshman from nearby Daly City.
Both teams so far, it's as if they knew the narrative that we were preaching about their Knights. Consistent and steady so far. You saw that Huang is actually in at a 9.725, so that hop back, and compared to Widner before her, who was extra clean, judges are looking apples to apples, so there is strategy in building those lineups.
Hart for Arizona State, a 9.825. So at least 9.8s for the first three Arizona State Gym Devils.
That Shaposhnikova element up to the high bar has had a few handstands shy of that vertical. That one on the high bar, no different. Great toe point here as she winds up for her dismount. And that technique is very solid. Full twisting double tuck, feet and ankles. That is so crucial. We'll see these dismounts done throughout the night, but that leg form is impeccable. A shame that she came up just a little bit short of rotation, had to take the step forward. It's the last impression that she leaves in the judges' minds.
Grace Garcia for the Cardinal.
Different entry, and that is a souk layout. And I believe that she missed this here because usually you see that twisting occur off. So this vault is not going to start from the typical 995 that we'd see of the Yurchenko full or the 10.0. We'll see that score significantly lower. So a bit of a hiccup in the cards vault lineup so far, but one more in the books for them to try and recover and salvage that team number.
So Stanford would probably most likely like to see that one being the score that gets dropped.
Correct.
Out of the six, you, of course, take the top 5. And here's a look at Gracie Reeves for Arizona State. Boyer for Arizona State was a 9.875.
Really outstanding work so far from Arizona State, riding that momentum of a season high. You can see here the blind change. She separates her legs and flexes her feet just a little bit. Toe on, toe off again. The foot form a bit questionable as she's moving with good rhythm in this routine. Well short of that handstand here. She needs to get the momentum going. Can see that tap increasing for a really stretched double layout. Good position on that. Wasn't quite ready for the landing here. You have to think a little bit. Maybe they're getting this freshman in the 5th spot sandwiched between two really high performers on bars to try and get her some numbers and confidence.
Madison Brunette finishing things off for the card.
Brunette, another layout vault. So things in the 6th position, likely they're assuming that all 5 are going to have higher start values, so Brunette can come in as the safety at the end. Some extra power, good hip openness on that Yurchenko layout, but again, not going to have the start value that they're looking for. So Stanford sacrificing some valuable points in the first rotation.
Grace Garcia got a 9.55. As we look at Cairo Leonard Baker, the Gym Devils' most accomplished gymnast.
Cairo Leonard Baker is an outstandingly aggressive athlete and really the cream of the crop for this current Sun Devil team. And when you have an athlete like that in your lineups who has an ankle injury right at the beginning of the season, it's a long road to get her back in these lineups, but here she is. She warmed up really strong across all 4 events. Overshoot down to the handstand and a dynamic toe shoot up in the pike position. Handstands haven't been as crisp as we've seen from Leonard in the past, but again, exemplary form on the full twisting double tuck. Tiny rebound on the landing here, but look at it rise up above. She's watching the floor, knows exactly where to put her feet, but her shoulders were a little bit behind her hips, so she needs to scoot them really quickly to get those underneath her. Solid outing for the Sun Devils. I mean, they're riding that momentum wave. Stanford comparatively, again, you never want to see scores below 9.6 for solid hits, so they'll have some work to do on the next 3 events.
Arizona State will have the lead after the first rotation. We do not have the final score in yet for Leonard Baker, but we can tell you they were a 49.15 going into Cairo, and they wouldn't need to count that to still be better than Stanford's 48.775 because Brunette came in at 9.575.
Interestingly, Arizona State came into this meet 41st in the nation on bars. So for any score to be over 49, that is not indicative of over a 40th ranking. So really good momentum for the Sun Devils as they start their night here on the farm.
All right, we will take a break as we have completed the first rotation, and we can update you on that Arizona State score as they do have an exhibition competitor right now. But it is 49.3 for Arizona State, Stanford 48.775. We will take a break and come back with Stanford on the bars and Arizona State on the vault. You are watching Stanford Women's Gymnastics on GoStanford.com and Pac-12.com. Stanford will move to the uneven bars, and Arizona State will be on the vault as we get ready for rotation 2. And for Arizona State, it will be Jessica Ginn, the senior from Chandler, Arizona, who had a 9.8 against Washington on the vault.
And that's exactly what we talked about, that consistent 9.8 number that both of these teams are looking for to secure those 49-plus tallies. twists a little bit quick off the table, but she allows herself to rise up, so doesn't necessarily rush the vault in its entirety. A little bit of movement on the landing, but stable and secure for Ginn to start.
Here's Taylor Lawson for the Cardinal. Lawson, a junior from Pennsylvania.
Lawson is a former international junior elite gymnast, starting off with a handstand on the low bar, a little bit short there, but does the transition up to high and low bar, secure through that sequence. Giant full into the double tuck dismount, and the point at which she releases had her momentum going forward, and that's what resulted in the shortness of the flipping rotation here. Step forward, significant about the width of her shoulders, so not the start that Stanford wanted, but again, a hit routine when all is said and done. Tremendous leg form. The only thing that I can note, she closes her hips a little bit in this post flight. So you can see right here, as she's finishing that last half twist of the full, she's piking her body down to securely get to the floor. Judges will take a deduction there.
So for the Cardinal, moving on to the bars, Grace Wagaspak. Sophomore from Lake Mary, Florida, and a 9.825 for them a couple of times this year, last at Oklahoma.
Stanford here, the emphasis should be on handstands, of course, body shapes and rhythms in these transitions. So she's going to start with a handstand, gets it up pretty nicely, toe on, toe off on the low bar, toe on Shaposhnikova, which is called a Maloney, into the Pax Salto transition. Really aggressive on that half pirouette. Saw her toes almost go over the vertical, tighten the core to get it back up. Sets up for the dismount here. Double layout. Has to pike her body position down to get it to her feet, but minimizes the landing deduction, so it's kind of a wash in terms of doesn't necessarily take a deduction on the landing, but the body position not as pristine as you would hope for, but solid number in there for Wagaspak.
Isabel Redmond for Arizona State.
Redmond has nice block off the table, but you can see right here she separates her legs in the pre-flight as she's getting her hands back onto the horse, so gets them together and manages to stay tight in that full. Some extra power as she travels backwards, though.
Let's get you updated on some scores. Ginn had a 9.8. For Juliette Boyer, it was a 9.75 on the vault for Arizona State. For Stanford, Taylor Lawson started off with a 9.7. We are awaiting the Grace Wagaspak score before we move on to Madison Brunette for the Cardinal.
So those high-flying releases are some of the most focal parts of all of these routines, and when you can connect two transitions, one up to the high bar, immediately down to the low bar, you don't usually see athletes do a single bar release, so a big Jaeger salto or a Tkachev. And we'll see what Madison does here, but every one of these releases, every one of these elements, when you're re-grasping the bar, should be done with extended arms. She's going to start with a half pirouette into a Delchev, and you can see her arms were completely extended. She didn't rise up as much as you would like to see above the bar, but had really great distance. Gets that final handstand within range, and a great extended double layout. Really got to be a confidence builder for Brunette on bars. Watch this. She's winding up the tap through the bottom, and she releases there. Comparatively, you didn't see her hips close like Grace before her. She was able to maintain that fully stretched body position.
This is Hannah Scharf for Arizona State.
That is a confident vault. Again, we saw a tiny bit of leg separation on the pre-flight. Squeezes them together, though, and look at the block she gets up here. Rises up, looking at the floor. and maintains that stuck landing position. That's huge for Arizona State there as they build in the back half of their lineup.
Redmond right before her had a 9.775. Grace Wagasback was at 9.85. And that is a new season high for her. As we await the score for Brunette. Evelyn Miko will be next for Stanford. It was a 9.9 for Sharp.
Solid number as they have a 10.0 vault coming next in their lineup. So that's the kind of momentum you want to build. Eve Miko here has some really innovative skills, and coaches mentioned that she's still getting used to competing in college, and that handstand a little bit tentative off the top. The blind change into the straddled Jaeger, again, I would say very secure and stable, but not necessarily aggressive so far. But she made me eat my words because that overshoot to handstand was completely vertical. Fortunately follows that up with short to handstand right here. Blind change into a layout Rudy. Gives up a few tenths on that dismount, though, between her chest position and the shortness of rotation. You'll see right here, great blind change, and then she rises her heels up. She can wait a little bit longer to get that height so she's not lurching forward rotationally at the end of that dismount. But great to see some variety in terms of the college dismounts that we're seeing.
Brunette had a 9.85. Here's Gracie Reeves.
This is going to be a tuck Cherchenko 1.5. Oh! Settles into the landing. She's like, I want to stick. I want to stick. We'll get it in replay here. Watch a little bit of foot and ankle form as she brings them together down at the end. See that 1 foot raise up, and then she's trying to compensate with her shoulders to even it out. Salute as fast as you can. That's the name of the game sometimes in college, but Coach Jess Santos really happy with that performance in the 5th spot.
Yeah, so far so good for Arizona State with a 9.8 and a 9.9 in the books. Kyla Bryant coming up next. That was another 9.9 for ASU on vault with Gracie Reeves. So 2 9.9s and a 9.8.
Kyla Bryant is exemplary on this reverse hecht release move that she's going to do. It's called a Tkachev. Watch how she turns it over after the toe on. Hips stay behind. All right. Get some nice swing out of it, allowing her to get up to that handstand. Pack salto. Look at the body position from this angle. Great there. That half pirouette, though, you saw her toes were past vertical on that handstand. Safe one on the high bar. And again, finessing that salute as we saw her do on vault. Not quite sure the judges are going to be fooled that time. Great extension, but you can see again, her shoulders are behind her hips. So that's extra rotation that she's got to somehow compensate for.
Cairo Leonard Baker for Arizona State to finish things off.
The height and the distance that she contributes to this lineup are bar none the best power that we've seen so far. Flares it out at the end. I think she missed her block a little bit, could rise up off the table a tiny bit more. But remember, she's coming off that early season ankle injury, so still getting her legs figuratively and actually underneath her in competition so far.
Arizona State already at a 49.125 on the vault before counting Cairo. Grace Garcia, the final competitor here for Stanford on the uneven bars, awaiting the score from Kyla Bryant. It was a 9.85 for Cairo Leonard Baker, and that moves them to a 49.225.
Grace is coming back from her second Achilles tear in her career here, so important to see her back. We saw her have a little hiccup on vault. Blind change into the straddled Jaeger. Rises that first release move up nicely. Is able to control it straight down into the overshoot. Another Rudy dismount. You can see she allows her body to rise up, really drives her heels into that dismount. She was not short of rotation as Eve before her. We're going to see, yeah, look at how she rises up. Plants it. Really great to see that technique on that dismount really come through.
So Stanford was at a 49.05 coming into that Garcia, and their lowest score was Taylor Lawson at 9.7. That probably won't count as Kyla Bryant received a 9.85.
Exhibition performance here on vault. Important experience in competition. Tucked your Chenko full. Again, got her feet underneath her. Saw some foot and leg form as she blocked off the horse. And then the chest position is of note here too. Watch her chest, still almost in line with the floor as she finishes the rotation there.
Then exhibition here for Stanford.
Looking at Kelly Ram, again, important to get this experience under her belt, as Stanford has had a slew of unfortunate and unforeseen injuries. They're having to really mix up these lineups. So important for an athlete like Kelly Ram to get the exhibition call here. High bar on top into the free hip, good handstand positions. Tosses that Tkachev back a little bit and doesn't allow her the rotation to get that handstand all the way up after it, but nice pack salto down as she does a half pirouette onto a squat on. But little things right there, the form on the squat on, you saw her feet come together and well shy of that final handstand as she sets up for the dismount. Really great knee form and compression in that full twisting double layout. Again, experience, the name of the game here for Kelly Ram. You can see almost comes off kind of one hand at a time, and that means you have to work a little bit harder in that dismount to orient yourself and make sure you're where you want to be to see that dismount happen. So some definite notes of improvement for Kelly Ram, but again, an event where she stays on the bars, gets that competitive experience under her belt, huge positive for the young Stanford card.
Grace Garcia got a 9.875, so Stanford's bar score 49.225, which was the same score that Arizona State got on the vault. We are through 2 rotations. We'll take a break. And through 2 rotations, it's Arizona State with a 98.525 to 98 lead over Stanford. When we return, Troy Clarity will handle the ceremonies alongside Evan and myself. Back after this, you're watching Stanford Women's Gymnastics on GoStanford.com and Pac-12.com.
Go! Stanford starting off and heading to the beam while Arizona State heads to the floor. Let's talk about the beam first with Stanford, one of their better events here.
Beam for Stanford has really been a dice roll so far this season. They had a really great showing when they hit 196 team total against Oklahoma in Oklahoma City, as you mentioned. So they're looking to kind of repeat that behavior. You see, it's gymnastics is a lot about feeling. Remember that feeling, how it felt to hit a beam rotation, and they're going to be up there. Key call-outs. No matter the team, it's going to be 180-degree split on leaps and jumps. Our friends at the SEC Network have the protractors, so you'll have to use your imagination a little bit tonight, but we'll still be looking for it here, as will the judges. And then as these gymnasts are flipping over in the acro elements, sometimes they can lose a bit of the pointed toe, so you'll see flexed foot. So we'll see when they're coming over the top in a lot of these straddled acro elements to keep that foot form intact, and then flow and rhythm. Anytime you're setting up for a big element, it should just be one gymnastics and go. So as we move into the postseason, judges are going to be super critical if they're taking extra time.
Stanford starts off with Wesley Stevenson on the beam, 5'4" sophomore from Naperville, Illinois. Last week down in Tucson on the beam, pulled a 9.75. Her season best was at Oregon State, where she scored a 9.85 in Corvallis on Super Bowl Sunday. Actually won the beam title against Arizona last year. Stanford, by the way, won the beam at Oklahoma. No small feat there.
Going to get things going. You see that setup right there. One gymnastics into the front aerial, beat jump combination. Moved very fluidly to connect those skills, not leaving any doubt in the judge's mind that that connection was solid and awarded so. Flip-flop, back layout, step out. Nice angle here to see her alignment on the beam. Full turn, finesses with the arms. Again, it's stopping that rotation and momentum at the exact right time. Really nice work up on her toes here as well. That's kind of what sets beam workers apart. You can be up on your toe, and that sheep jump is very difficult. One thing I want to point out is she kept her knee and lower leg ankle form throughout the entirety of that leap, even as she lost sight of the beam. Really moving confidently here. I think through that front aerial, that was probably the most tentative, but it wasn't even that. Swings her leg through to the gainer full dismount. Only critique on that dismount, it was dynamic, the level was high, just piked her hips down a little bit to get it safely to her feet. But that's really the name of the game here. Remember, these teams are both looking for momentum and solid routines throughout their lineup. So for Stevenson to start like that, really great start.
Stanford is a team number 23 nationwide on the beam. Arizona State, number 42 on the floor. Here's Gracie Reeves.
A freshman here has been performing well for the Sun Devils so far this season. Starts off with a 2.5 twist, and you saw on the landing, it's so crucial. Her shoulders and hips were right in alignment, so she was able to stay completely vertical. Had a little bit of extra rotation twisting-wise, so kind of took a little step over. Everyone can always appreciate a retro backspin anytime they see it in gymnastics. That second pass was a whip half to a front full. On these combination passes where they're bounding from one skill to the next, you want the last one to be the most dynamic and the highest. She stayed on the same plane a little bit. Again, in those leap combinations as well, you want to see a full 180, no different than balance beam. Closes with a 1.5 twisting front layout, called a Rudy, had some shifts of her feet on the landing, but again, that stable, solid leadoff performance that the Sun Devils definitely want there.
Always so important to set the tone. Reeves, the freshman from Phoenix.
Watch her feet here, see them both move the front and the back, so they're allowed to step into that lunge position, but if the front foot moves, it's an extra deduction.
Wesley Stevenson, a 9.825 with her beam performance. Here's Chloe Widner.
Widner has phenomenal club training. Former balance beam world champion Kim Zamesco-Burdette was her coach in the club days at Texas Dreams, and she started off with a switch leap combination, beautiful back leg extension. As we called off the top, foot form can sometimes be sacrificed in those acrobatic elements, but she did a great job of extending her foot through her ankle down to the tips of her toes on that flip-flop back layout. Now that's an interesting call out because you saw the break at her hips, tried to finesse it as a little bit as just going deep down into her knees. Her arms flickered a little bit as well, so that combination will be questionable. Home scoring sometimes can be a little accommodating for those waivers, but like you said, we're heading into postseason, so this is a crucial time to get those things worked out.
Widner, a 9.925 against Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago. Strong finish here.
Watch that extension on the back layout full after the aerial for the dismount combination. Her hips stayed open, just like we saw in the Yurchenko fulls on vault. The hips have to stay open to maintain that layout position.
Gracie Reeves with a 9.775 on her floor exercise. Here's Juliet Boyer, the freshman from just up the road in Daly City.
Boyer has phenomenal form, even on these big double salto passes. Pay special attention to how she sets herself apart. That first pass was a front layout right into a Rudy. We saw the Rudy, the last skill, rise up above the preceding one. That's good dynamics, but that front foot shifted just a little bit. Want to settle in, really absorb the landing as much as possible. Saw her use that 4-inch mat on the double pike, recoiled up just a little bit. Looked like the landing surprised her. Extension is phenomenal on that leap combination with a wolf full at the end. Here's the final pass for Boyer. Can really appreciate the patience that she brings to floor exercise. She allows her skills to propel her up into the air. Watch this, 1.5 twist, boom! Hits that beautiful front layout position, very secure and stable.
Boyer won the all-around title against UC Davis back in January. Kaylee Cole taking her turn on the beam. Chloe Widner, a 9.875.
Another product of Texas Dreams, and she has never missed a meet for the card in her 4 years so far. So Kaylee Cole, an exemplary contributor to this team, an international competitor for Bolivia as well. A little bit long in this setup for the flip-flop layout. See the back leg in each of those elements, tiny bit of knee form, but really square, allowed her to stay unwavered throughout that series.
Senior from Flower Mound, Texas.
Had a little extra momentum, and you saw that pose happened right after. She put her leg up and immediately continued to step. So not necessarily a deduction, but a little bit of a cock your head, what was the rhythm supposed to be in that element, but not a waver in the double stag position as she loses sight of the beam. Coach Tabitha Yim in the background cheering her on. Solid setup, round off, double full. And she was patient on the set for that double full, allowing her to see the landing. We'll get another look here, punches up, look, and absorbs it very well.
If you're training under Kim Zemeskel, I imagine you're going to learn some things.
One or two.
Juliet Boyer with a 9.85. Morgan Wilson on the floor for Arizona State.
Wilson here did her club training at Gage in Missouri. Known for their attention to detail. She's a redshirt senior, so has been doing gymnastics a long time. Overcooks the double tuck. You could see her chest position stayed down low. She knew she was pulling until the end, so bounces back out of it. Really great Gojian leap to finish that connection. Really deliberate style of choreography, taking her time, not as fluid throughout. Front handspring, her legs came together a little bit late as she punched into the floor. So interesting, just a 2-pass routine there. Perfectly acceptable by the rule standards. But again, this last pass, the front layout, her feet got together a little late. So the body position on the front full was not quite extended, but we've got another senior up on beam now for Stanford.
Yep, Ashley Ty competing in her only event tonight, the senior from El Dorado Hills, California, a 9.725 on the beam last week in Tucson.
With Cole's 9.875 preceding her, the table is set nicely. Really great extension through those flip-flops, but as you could see, her feet started shifting over on the beam about the second flip-flop. When your feet shift, a lot of times you try and compensate, or you can't compensate in your shoulders, and she was unfortunately off in that triple series. Good display of difficulty in connecting those leaps nicely. The third senior, of course, tonight is actually Captain Eliza Yu. She was forced to medically retire this year, was not able to sustain the training necessary, but coaches have said she's a vocal leader on this team, and we know that she, Kaylee, and Ashley contribute so much heart to this SWIG team. Ashley Ty finishes with a 1.5 twist off the end, and that was kind of like, let's end this routine. I know this is not one we're going to want to count. Was not aggressive on that landing. Her shoulders came way forward. Is a large leap forward for Ty.
Here's Hannah Scharf for Arizona State, named the Pac-12 Freshman of the Week last week. Breakthrough performance against the Huskies. And again, you could say that about a lot of the Arizona State Sun Devils.
Front tuck step out through to double tuck. That is a secure landing. You saw her step back into that lunge position. Her front foot was planted and her chest was up. Front full to front tuck. Looks like she buckled on the second element of that pass a little bit, but reacts quickly, gets a front tuck safely to her feet. Can always appreciate the projection of the athletes when they're taking their eyes off the floor, drawing the crowd in as she sets up for the final pass here. Flip-flop double pike. Saw that small step forward. That was indicative of the chest being a tiny bit lower, but still controlled it well. Wasn't extra bounce, but short of rotation. She snaps that back handspring down.
Brings up Taylor Lawson. Morgan Wilson, by the way, with a 9.8 on her floor routine. Ashley Ty, an 8.925.
And this is a big setup for Taylor here. This is an elite skill. Sometimes she takes a tiny bit long to set up for it, but I'm willing to give her a pass in most cases because this standing Arabian half-turn punch front. And that is a lapse because you saw her feet were completely on, but her shoulders were just a tiny bit short of rotation, so she was compensating on the beam, and sometimes you can get a little out of sorts up there. Cat leap into a switch half. Really unfortunate because the skill that she just attempted, she usually is rock solid, and it's something really special for NCAA fans to see because she, to my knowledge, is the only one doing it here. Very few in the world even competing that skill nowadays.
The margin for error super thin on the beam.
Difficulty continuing here. She has a series of back handspring layout. Like to see the extension through the ankles and toes again, but really nice rebound from the earlier fall. Gainer back pike off the end, gets her chest up quickly at the end, but was a little bit low as she landed. No other deduction on the landing, though. You can see kicks up, pikes it down, gets the chest up quickly, salutes to the judges. So an unfortunate night for Stanford on beam as they have 2 consecutive falls. Kyla Bryant will finish out their lineup.
Jessica Ginn, the senior from Chandler, Arizona, has yet to score below a 9.825 on the floor. Hannah Scharf with a 9.875 for the Sun Devils.
Dynamic front tuck step out. You can tell this is an aggressive tumbler and a fan of DMX. Who knew? No better time than senior year to start feeling yourself on floor. Second pass here for Ginn. Front layout to an extended Branny. It's a layout with a half twist. Looked like she may have taken that front layout up a little too high. Not sure if she planned to do a front full out of that, but we usually don't see that combination of passes. Should still have enough bonus in this routine. Final pass for Gin is a double pike, absorbs it a little extra in those knees. No deduction, but not as dynamic as some of the other performers we'll see tonight. Handles it well, and again, had some fun out there.
And that's what it's all about, right? Having fun.
Fun and scores,
Yes.
equally the same.
And sometimes they come hand in hand.
High
Good
scores,
score.
high fun,
Yes, indeed.
perfect world.
Well, Ginn had a 9-8 on the floor in this building 2 years ago. Here's Kyla Bryant. Tied for 22nd in the country.
Bryant is quick twitch on all her events. So sometimes that's a little bit of a confounding variable on balance beam when you really have to be deliberate in your movements. So we'll see in this series, and as well as her dismount combination, she flips so quickly. The warm-up, she had trouble controlling this, and actually did something very similar to that. So you could see that last half of rotation in the layout step out, she was trying to come up before she'd even completed the skill. Standing switch jump there, very difficult, but she's having checks on all of these major elements so far. Needs to calm it down. Again, 2 falls ahead of her. The compression that she gets in that tucked front allows her to actually open up and have time to absorb the landing. Super dynamic for Bryant. And speaking of, it's going to continue here. She does a flip-flop, double tuck. Excellent level of difficulty there. Shoulders were a tiny bit behind the hips again, so we're seeing that step backwards to accommodate for the extra momentum. But watch this. Full extension of the arms allows her to generate that power once, twice, and raise up into a double tuck salto.
Oakland's own Cairo Leonard Baker hoping to follow up Jessica Ginn's 9-9.
Big opening, 1.5 twist right to a front full. Asking us if we're ready for it.
Her career best on the floor came against Stanford last year at 9.95.
Sneaks the end of that leap around. You can see her shoulders are rotated, but if you pay special attention to her feet, weren't quite there. Hoping to turn down for this dismount. She prepares to put it down. Here we go. Another 2-pass routine for the Sun Devils here. Final impression for the judges. Great double pike, sets it up. I would say that's an aggressive lunge back as she puts up the fork at the end. Solid routine to close out the rotation for the Sun Devils. I would say some control issues on this final pass. Sets it up. Flexed feet, really secure in the front foot. I take it back. It was a secure landing, just a little bit of flexed feet as she made it safely around.
Cairo Leonard Baker says, turned down for what? And overall, solid performances, it seemed, from top to bottom on the floor for Arizona State, which coming into this one in the rankings category had been their weakest part. Number 42 in the country on the floor for Arizona State. Meanwhile, for Stanford, as Morgan Wong goes through her exhibition routine, Kyla Bryant had a 9.775.
Saw the setup there. A little bit long, but puts it securely there. And in pressure situations like this, where you've had falls in the lineup preceding, it's not uncommon for coaches to treat this exhibition spot as if they were in the lineup. She should still feel the exact amount of pressure as if she were in the competitive lineup, as Eliza Yu, senior captain, cheers on Morgan Huang. She's been in and out of this lineup. Tremendous fight there on the front aerial. Was short of rotation. You saw her shoulders significantly behind the rest of her body. So then you're trying to snap yourself forward a little bit and compensate. Pike jump to double stag. the rhythm of this routine just a little bit off. She's moving fast, fast, slow, fast, fast, slow. Want to see a little more fluidity. That could do with a little pressure and nerves here as Huang sets up for the dismount. Round off 1.5. Really can appreciate the time she gives herself to look back after the full twist. She has a half left to go. She's looking behind her shoulder to pinpoint where she is and needs to put her feet on the floor. Solid technique from Huang on that dismount.
So after 3 check that rotations in the books, Arizona State scoring a 49-350 on the floor, while Stanford started off well early in their rotation on the beam, but a few things went against them. They finished with a 48-350.
They had work to do and unfortunately not able to make it up on beam. We'll look for a strong showing from the card to finish out tonight on floor. Send their seniors out from home in style. That first pass you could see was a big double pike, dynamic height there, but the front foot shifted as she landed. Front layout to another layout Barani. Left her chest down a little bit. Looks like she was surprised by the bounce of the floor. One thing that's really exemplary for this Arizona State team, though, is their emphasis on projecting up off of the floor. Sometimes you can see athletes keep their eyes and their head almost looking down the entire time. Emphasis there. And again, when you're competing in a conference like the Pac-12, you have exemplary gymnasts all around you from every school. So important to raise the level of the game.
Yeah, when you've got UCLA and Utah on the schedule every single year, Washington no slouches either, you need to bring it every single week in this conference.
That double tuck ending, she got off the floor really quickly, left her chest a little bit low. You can see right here. Comes back, and you can see she's just rotating backwards so she doesn't pull as hard because she knows she's flipping fast. But ends up just a tiny bit short of rotation there. Strong exhibition performance, again, gaining that competitive experience for the Sun Devils.
3 rotations in the books. Arizona State with a team score of 147-875, and Stanford with a 146-350. Cardinal head to the floor while the Sun Devils head over to the beam. The 4th rotation on senior night from Maples Pavilion coming up in just a moment.
At a season-high 49-350 on the floor. And we were talking about just how well they have performed overall. And Evan, you mentioned how perhaps that Washington meet gave them confidence. Arizona State head coach Jay Santos said after that meet, in which they scored a 196-875, one of the themes for today was momentum. Let's start, build, and build, and build. I really think that's going to build our confidence for the stretch, the next couple of weeks, the next couple of meets in a row, and we have seen that really take off today. Career highs for Hannah Sharp and Juliet Boyer on floor, a season high for Cairo Leonard Baker.
Meanwhile, for the Stanford Cardinal, their beam rotation started off quite well with Stevenson, Widner, and Cole, but then things kind of went off the rails a little bit for them. Evan, what are some things you're looking for from the Cardinal as they hit the floor to finish out the night?
You know, they're putting 5 up on floor, trying to send their seniors out in style. You know, Stanford's no slouch on floor. They have really great dynamic E-level elements, a couple double layouts, a full twisting double back, and some really fun choreography as well. So really the name of the game hasn't changed for them into this final rotation. They want to go out there and create the momentum, create the energy that they may have lost a little bit on balance beam, but it's a new event. They have to come in with a fresh mindset and take that through to the end.
Cole, Lawson, Widner, Huang, and Bryant on the floor for Stanford. Arizona State will begin its beam rotation with Megan Thompson, who last week against the Huskies pulled down a 9.825, tying her career best. Transfer from Nebraska. She won the Tom Osborne Citizenship Medal for community service while there. If you're from Nebraska and winning things that have Tom Osborne's name attached to them, that's kind of a big deal.
Also a big deal, triple series in the NCAA. Great display there, flip-flop, back layout, step out. And really you can tell she sets herself apart from other beam workers in the way she carries herself. So her chest position stays up. She works up high on toe. Those are things that develop with confidence on the event. So she's really putting that out there, working well so far. Full turn, stops the rotation, gets her arms confidently into position. Tiny bit long in the setup for the dismount, and there you see a tiny bit of inexperience. She shifted her feet just a little bit on the back full. Not necessary, just absorb. Still happy with it. Again, that solid number to start off.
The senior, Kaylee Cole, begins her floor routine for the Cardinal.
Final rotation, senior night. We'll look for her to control the power. There's a lot of energy behind her in Maples tonight. 4 years culminating in a home event. Got to be exciting for Kaylee Cole.
Theme of the senior class was sushi rolls. They all came out dressed as sushi rolls because they're rolling out of Stanford, and they all love sushi.
Leave it to Swig. Here we go. It's going to be a 2.5 twist. Punch front. Really secure. Had some trouble with that in warm-ups, but very stable. The back leg of that ring leap didn't quite get to the level that it needed, so the judges have some opportunity to deduct there. Here's one of the trademark Kaylee Cole moments. Casual straddle. Would say she hit 180. Setting up again, finding her breath. Really dynamic Rudy from Kaylee. You saw she used the front handspring to punch her up into the air. Had that extra momentum controlled with a beautiful stag leap. Really great way to end her career at Maples. Got to give it up as the crowd being extra appreciative for Kaylee Cole.
And her teammates as well. Hugs and ovations all the way around for the senior from Flower Mound, Texas. Morgan Wilson. You just saw her on the floor against Cal earlier this year. She competed on the floor for her first time in 4 years. But it all worked out. Scored a then career high 9-8. And here she is on the beam.
Wilson here setting up for her series. Flip-flop layout, splits her legs almost halfway through that flip-flop, changes the rhythm. Really nice light full turn. Like the height she achieves in that cat leap into the switch half, although the back leg there a little bit below the level where she wants to be, has to adjust her feet a little as well. Kick over, tucked front. Seems to be playing it a little bit safe. She allowed her knees to absorb a little bit deeply in that element, but again, balance beam, want to put up those solid numbers, and the Sun Devils know they have something good going. That gainer back full off the side, securely to her feet. Again, not going too aggressive, just putting it down.
Kaylee Cole with a 9-9 to start Stanford's floor routine.
Announcer looking at Taylor Lawson on the start sheet. It's actually going to be Chloe Widner.
Yep.
Talked about those double layout E-level elements in this lineup. She's the first. Watch for the chest position at the end of this first pass. Bad guy, good double layout is the plan. Better than good for Widner. Absorbs it well and gets her chest up very nicely. Say one of her best this season. As we noted, her attention to detail and form on balance beam, no different here on floor exercise. Front layout, front full, really secure as she stepped into that lunge position. You notice as her shoulders came around, her feet were right underneath her, full rotation and completion of that leap. Round off back handspring, double pike. See, she was pulling really hard, has to step back quickly into that lunge, securely to her feet, and that's what Widner wants to do. She's had an up and down season so far, has been in and out of these lineups, but another solid number is gonna be in her tally.
She's had a freshman season. Some terrific moments and some moments that she's going to learn from as she prepares to have a terrific career here on the farm. A 9.75 for Morgan Wilson sets the stage for Juliet Boyer. Boyer trained with San Mateo Gymnastics just up the road.
Set up into the flip-flop layout. I like how lightly she lands that element. Means she's absorbing the elements through her legs while maintaining beautiful form. Again, that toe point here. So that back leg bend just a little bit, so it threw her momentum in that front aerial off a bit, had to adjust, stays up. Switch leap combination, just like we saw from Chloe Widner, and those are both, you don't attempt that combination unless you know you have beautiful split positions, and both of them did tonight. Great display of difficulty and innovation. Nice split position in the aerial before the layout back full, but again, they're going tentative on these dismount landings. You can see, not fighting for it, just letting it go. So those are tents that Arizona State is going to know that they can improve on. They'll probably look to do that in the next meets leading up to the postseason as well.
Cardinal have started the floor with a pair of 9.9s. Cole, Widner. I'll see what Morgan Wong can do.
And that's setting them up for some great redemption on a disappointing night so far. This fourth rotation has a lot of promise. Another double lay. Secure landing. I would say her chest was just a little bit lower than Chloe's, but very stable and secure landing position. We talked about projection with Arizona State. Coach Tabitha Yim was known for her innovative floor choreography, translating that to her athletes as well.
Yim, of course, the 2008 Pac-10 Gymnast of the Year during her time here on the farm. Former head coach at Arizona. I think she still gets a little riled up when she sees Arizona State on the other side of the building.
Second pass was a front layout, front full. Last pass very securely to her feet, double pike. She really snapped the back handspring down that gave her that extra height. She was able to zero in on the landing. Really great for Morgan Hong, especially knowing that the card has a good thing going with 2.99s already in the bank, and they're only putting up 5.
Cardinal solid, if not perhaps heading towards spectacular on the floor so far. Isabel Redmond, freshman from Shelby Township, Michigan.
Flip-flop layout, familiar series that we've seen tonight. Keeps her hips closed on both of those elements, so while her legs were straight, her body position was closed over the top. Securely on her feet, though, and that's really that momentum that Arizona State's hoping to continue on balance beam. Switch ring. Got to give a nod to the difficulty attempt there for Redmond as well. This is a great angle. You saw that first jump, the split jump, not at 180. The sheep jump was a good compensation, though, securely to her feet, but judges will deduct there. Like how dynamic she is in taking that gainer back pike up high, but you want to see a tiny bit more distance away from the beam. You can see that foot clears just barely, but like her aggression on that dismount, she saw and she settled in.
9-9 for Cole, 9-9 for Widner, 9-9-2-5 for Wong.
And that is really huge in a season that has held so many unexpected twists and turns for the Cardinal. And Kyla Bryant really is the athlete you want to close out any floor rotation. Had extra power here on this pass in warm-up. Will want to take it up high. Absolutely perfect first pass.
Bryant tied for 22nd in the nation on the floor. Tied for 27th in the all-around.
Front tuck through to double pike. It'll be interesting to see what the judges do because she's has such a great body awareness that she turns those steps almost into a planned dance, but she was definitely off balance. Tremendous technique, though. Final pass crucial for Bryant to close out. Shades of Florida great. Keitra Hunter in that open double tuck. The technique is flawless, and you know when you're not even having to grab your knees, you can see the floor the entire time. She did just that. Tremendous close for the Cardinal, and that is the momentum that they're going to want to carry into their next meet. Whatever happened preceding that floor, they should forget about that and build off of that floor rotation.
A Janet Jackson heavy playlist on that rotation, and the Cardinal in control on the floor. Gracie Reeves, meanwhile, on the beam for Arizona State.
Reeves having to deal with the crowd and team noise. Kyla Bryant, one judge through a 10. Reeves secure through her series, but you saw the knee form really compromised throughout. You can see a little hint of that as well in the leap combination. Front aerial to cradle. Connection a bit slow. We'll see what the judges come up with there. 1.5 twist again, a safe landing. Oh, not a salute tonight to end things for Reeves. There you go. All right, I misspoke. Lawson gonna close things out here. She's got 4 solid numbers in front of her.
Led by a 9.975 from Bryant. Taylor closing out the show for the Cardinals, set a career best on the floor at Arizona State last year, a 9-9.
This pass, 1.5 step out, round out, flip flop, punches. Oh, she means business. Doesn't generate a ton of speed into that round off flip flop double tuck to finish the pass though, but she knows exactly where she is.
Taylor admits she can be a perfectionist 101% of the time. Now that's ultimate perfection.
Here we go for Lawson. Double pike to close. Really secure. Saw that front foot move just a little bit, but the card has a lot of momentum and noise behind them here in Maples Pavilion. I mean, I thought Kyla Bryant was the exclamation point on that, but Taylor Lawson added another one to the sentence tonight.
Stanford's best on the floor this coming into the night was a 49-375 against Cal, when the Bears came down to Maples Pavilion on February the 16th. But the Stanford Cardinal have been terrific on the floor so far tonight. Gracie Reeves, a 9-7 with her beam routine, sets the stage for Hannah Sharp.
Arizona State losing just a little bit of that crucial momentum that they've talked about building. Opening the door on a lot of those dismounts, some easy form corrections. They'll know what they need to go do and work on in the gym as they head in to the postseason though. Great extension and lift on the final element there. Just like on floor exercise, you're seeing one element precede the other. The final one should be the highest. And look at that, side summy. Great difficulty here. Doubts herself just a little bit. Choreography as she heads into the dismount. Round off, 1.5, and I like that aggression. Similar to Morgan Huang, she finishes that last half twist looking behind her, knowing exactly where she needs to plant. I like the aggression and that exclamation point to finish the rotation for Arizona State.
Well, the final rotation of the night, all the exclamation points going to the Stanford Cardinal. Cole a 9-9, Widner a 9-9, Wong a 9-9-2-5, Lawson a 9-9-2-5, and Kyla Bryant a 9-9-7-5. Cardinal blowing away their previous season high on the floor, finishing with a 49-6-25. As impressive as it gets.
Yeah, Troy, just to follow up on that previous best 49-375 about a couple of weeks ago against Cal. So from that to 49-625, just really impressive stuff. Everyone at least a 9-9. That's how you want to end a meet.
Huge jump, and like you guys mentioned, that's cream of the crop, not only in the Pac-12, but in the nation. That's what you're going to see teams like Florida, Oklahoma rotate with. So as we get a final look here at Cairo Leonard Baker in the exhibition spot, again, had that ankle injury early in the season, so hasn't been back in that all-around position yet, but getting some experience on balance beam here, so we can expect to see her back on all four soon enough. Standing back layout in combination with a jump, again, closes her hips just a little bit, tiny check, but love the aggression that she brings. As we noted, a little conservative at the beginning of the lineup for Arizona State, so with Leonard Baker back in the lineup, she again brings that fire to the Sun Devils.
The first Gym Devil to win a Pac-12 yearly award when she won all Pac-12 honors on the bars and the all-around last year. First Gym Devil to pull off that since 1996.
Technique just a little bit different, almost dives to her hands on that flip-flop preceding the back layout. Really stable and secure, working super confidently. Just want to see a bit more extension to add to the aesthetic there, but that is hard to argue. We talked about the aggression, and she is showing it through and through. Round off 1.5, gets that landing securely to her feet. Strong exhibition performances. We can expect to see Kyra Leonard-Baker back on all four for the Sun Devils soon enough.
Overall, the Sun Devils trending upwards, and they get the win here in the meet tonight. Arizona State, the final 196-525, while Stanford finishes with a 195-975. Your all-around winner is going to be Hannah Scharf. Actually, check that. That's Kyla Bryant is going to win the all-around title for this evening. She gets a 39.5, and what a way for her to finish out her evening with a nearly flawless floor exercise that perhaps is maybe the highlight of what we've all seen this evening.
Yeah, career high on the floor for her, a 9.975. Had a 9.95 against Callan. Narrowly missed out on matching her career high in the all-around. Had a 39.525 in the all-around at Pac-12s last year, so just a little shy of that.
So Bryant with the 39.5 wins the all-around. Hannah Scharf, the highest scoring all-around gymnast for Arizona State, with a 39.4. Evan, very intriguing. I think both teams with some positive building blocks. I think Arizona State overall continuing their momentum that they built, especially with their win over their tie against Washington. You know, you could argue that Arizona State actually won that one maybe with the tie against Washington, but season highs in all four of their rotations last week, season highs in 2 of the 4 this evening. I don't think they can complain too much with coming up here to the farm and putting up some of the scores they got tonight. You
know, really, the name of the game for Arizona State was momentum and to get rid of a score in the 194 counting toward their NQS. And they did that with this away score, and they did it significantly. So Arizona State, I mean, they came in ranked in the 30s overall nationally, and they were 35 overall with that 194 score in their NQS. So this score over nearly 2 points significantly boosts them up. They're gonna jump up in the rankings.
Meanwhile, for Stanford, maybe a bit of a misstep on the beam for them, some things that they would love to have back, but you know, when you finish up strong, it perhaps colors how you think your night went overall. Stellar on the floor and seemingly relatively solid in all the other phases as well.
Definitely have to call it like you see it. I mean, balance beam was not where they would hope to be tonight. First 2 rotations, you know, pretty middle of the ground, solid, built that momentum. Beam was beam tonight for Stanford. Unfortunate reality, but good lessons to be learned. Again, they're still playing with this lineup significantly. They have former international elite Lauren Navarro primed to return to the lineup.
Yep.
She can fill in a big gap on vault. And, you know, beam is always going to be that event where the pressure can set in. So they know what they also have to go back and work on.
Well, Kevin, couple of final go-arounds for the seniors here with Kaylee Cole. Nice moments tonight. Lisa Yu obviously unable to go, medically retired, but still very much a part of the festivities here tonight. And Ashley Ty, her lone performance on the beam. A senior class that is well decorated on the floor, during meets, but also great ambassadors for this sport and this university.
Yeah, great ambassadors for this sport and Stanford. And for all the troubles that Stanford did have on beam, Kaylee Cole actually did get a season high on the beam. She was the bright spot at 9.775, besting her 9.675 that she got against UW. So she did provide a bright spot there. We talked about the vocal leadership of Elisa Yu, forced to medically retire. But it was nice for them to end on such a positive note on the floor after having a rough rotation on beam.
Fun night here at Maples Pavilion. It always is when it's Stanford women's gymnastics. Arizona State wins the meet 196-575 to Stanford's 195-975. That'll do it for us here from Maples Pavilion on behalf of our GoStanford.com and Pac-12 Plus crew. And my fellas, Kevin Dana and Evan Hyder, hope you guys had as much fun as I did. I'm Troy Clarity. Thank you so much once again for joining us. Senior night at Maples Pavilion. Arizona State wins, but really when it comes to gymnastics, we all win when we have as much fun as we did tonight. Thanks again for joining us. Hope you have a great week.